Welcome to our workplace planning session, sponsored by the HD Base T Alliance and in association with AV Magazine. When staff return to the office, there will be a revisioned environment for them to work within. But reconfiguring the corporate workspace has brought about some unique challenges, not least perhaps the most important one. How are companies investing in network infrastructures and hybrid workplace safe technologies to ensure reliable operations? To help discuss these issues, Clive Coldwell has invited 3 people who can hopefully give us some answers. Gabby Schricky, Senior Vice President, Head of the Audio Video Business Unit at Valens, inventor of HD Base T technology. Stein Ohms, Director of Product Strategy for AV and Digital Workplace at Crestron. And Simon Truby, Director of Communications and Workplace Services in Ricoh, UK. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. And Clive, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Great question of the day, really. A fantastic session for us to introduce you to. And it's very sexy at the moment. Just what is the new workplace going to look like in the coming months? We don't know. But hopefully today we're going to find out and go more into what the insides and the technical challenges are going to be that we're all going to be facing. Simon, if I can come to you first, what do you feel a conventional workplace is going to look like in the next 6 months to a year?
Well, I think Clive, actually, it's going to be, quite a journey piece, actually, because the sort of remobilization of the workplace is going to be critical to the well-being of the users as well. There's so much time that we've had working on remote calls and working on remote access to meetings, etc., that we've missed out on all those collisions in the workplace. And so the users are going to want to come to the workplace not only for obviously task-based work, to really come and collaborate and use it for key tools in terms of what they've got from there, but also that social bit as well. It's the collisions and the creativity that actually creates by meeting up. So I think the workplace is going to look very, very different in terms of the way that people use the spaces to really engage in terms of collaborative working. But I think the other thing that's going to happen is there is still going to be that touchdown area, that remote desking, being able to jump on and continue doing your work around those creativity pieces, which is going to create more challenges. It's going to be quite interesting because I myself have already been back to the workplace and seen how chaotic it is in terms of lots of people jumping on these calls that we're all used to, like hour after hour, half hour, rolling onto the next call. And the effect that has across a working space is incredible, actually. It's already starting to do that. So the workplace is going to change to create lots more spaces that you can go away and attend those calls and attend those collaboration sessions, as personally as well as a team as well.
Stein, Crestron's come up with a lot of ideas on this, haven't they? You've had a lot to say, not just for AV Magazine, but generally speaking. What's your view on it?
Yeah, but I totally agree. It's gonna change big time. But in all honesty, anything conventional is changing. It's in our DNA as human beings to be innovative and have things changed. And all what we hear now, all this hybrid workforce, being able to get onto conference calls from any space, even data gathering and all that, all these buzzwords we're talking about, these already existed for quite some years. Think about this hybrid workplace, being able to work from anywhere. A few years ago, we were talking about activity-based working, and companies like Dyson, Google embraced this already for quite some years now. The same for conferencing, web conferencing. It's not a new technology. It exists since 2013 when Microsoft started with Lync, and then Skype for Business, and now you have Teams, Zoom, and all that needs to be adopted more, but it was already ongoing. The only thing what COVID really did was accelerate this process. Normally, this would have taken place over the course of 5-10 years to follow, but COVID just all squeezed it down into a single year, where now organizations have to very far at a rapid pace change the way how they work and change importing all these new technologies.
Gabi, you've had a few changes in Israel. You seem to be leading the pack with vaccination and everything else, don't you? What's been the general business climate in Israel about getting back to the norm, or if so, reevaluating what that norm is going to be?
Yes, as you know, we are lucky to be among the first countries in the world to get out of the pandemic, as we want to call it, vast majority of the population is already vaccinated, and we are lucky about it. And I can tell you two things. One, people do want to get back to office, do want to get back to see people and hang around the cooler and drink coffee together and brainstorm. So the traditional workspace is not gone forever, but it does need to change because majority of the meetings are going to be hybrid, as we call them, virtual, combining local participants and remote participants. So the cloud-based platforms really helped to make the meeting more accessible in an affordable way. So I can make a meeting anywhere. But the quality of the meeting is what important. And this is the next step. With the right technology, we need to make the meetings be in a much better experience than what we're used to have today. And thanks to products from Crestron and other companies, we are able to enjoy that now. We need to remember two important points. One is the cloud connectivity, the internet connectivity must be perfect to realize a good meeting. And then within the room, the audio, the video, and even more importantly nowadays, the USB connectivity must be perfect. Luckily, HD-based can provide that connectivity.
Well, this leads on to the next point, doesn't it, Gabby? What are the structural and application challenges companies are going to have to face? I mean, it's not going to be easy to separate out which side of the fence they're going to have to address first. Is it the structure? Is it the applications? Or is it the mode of behavior that we're going to have to adapt to in the new climate?
Yeah, absolutely right. The bigger the size of the company, the structural implications are going to be more significant. Again, cloud connectivity is going to be the number one focus first, because the cloud-based platforms allow us to get these meetings ad hoc. You're going to get, as Simon said earlier, a bunch of people coming in together with sometimes multiple devices connected. So you need to have the capacity, the quality of the network to enable this platform to work properly. And you have to complement it with great audio, video, USB connectivity within the room to connect the cameras, the microphone speakers, to enable this holistic system to work properly. I also believe that we will see many more cameras in the room, not only one. We will see multiple sensors in the room. And with the help of the growing use of AI, artificial intelligence capabilities, we'll see a lot of good use of this data and video audio streams taking place. And we want to be at a system that is context aware. It knows what I want to do. It zooms automatically. It counts the number of people. It allows multiple zooms in parallel. And I want to feel like I'm in a regular meeting. In fact, with the right technology, we can make it even better than a regular meeting.
That's the thing, isn't it, though, Gabby? It's the right technology, and it's great in theory, isn't it? But Simon, if I can move to you, I mean, what sort of response is the AV community giving you from where you were before to where you are now? You've seen quite a range of potential application areas of what's happening, what isn't happening, what should be happening. Where are we? Do you get a feel for where we are with how people are tackling these challenges?
Yes, I think the approach at the moment, obviously, is that large organisations and small organisations are looking at the technology to put into spaces that simplify the user experience. You have to get into these spaces and be able to connect up as easy as you have been at home. That's the expectation. The problem is, as Gabby said, it's large groups of people into one room, so the risk is higher, and that's the key thing. So I think that the adaptability of the technology and actually the support part of the technology, quality is even more important now than it was before, because every room has to have that capability. I think the expansion into most spaces are being enabled now. That is really what everybody's driving for, because who wants to go and book a meeting room and not be able to do a call now and have that hybrid capability? And the fact that you need to know that it's going to work first time every time, and you don't waste that beginning of the meeting, the first 5-10 minutes of the meeting, trying to peripherals and work down that, it is the key approach that I think lots of people. There has been a bit of I would say, a lull from the community in terms of looking at that, because nobody quite knew when they were going to remobilize the office. I think now that, as you say, in different areas, vaccine programs are really driving the decisions for offices to reopen. And I think there is a big push now, and that's a challenge, because that's a challenge for everybody in terms of resources and products and how that as well. But it's the community itself are looking to mobilise in quite a big way, knowing that they need to have the right tools to encourage workforce back. They can't tell them to come back necessarily, but they want to encourage behaviour.
Steen, experience of Crestron being in residential and business, of course. I mean, you're crossing the great divide, aren't you? And when we talked about this earlier, we were always saying that infrastructure security, making sure the two halves were really connected quite well, and the fact that the IT and the AV at home was up to scratch and robust enough as it would be in the office is something of a challenge. How are people separating out those two areas? Because they're difficult areas to sort of match and get right and glue together, aren't they?
And I think that's also one of the reasons why people also want to come back to the office is because home is home, and that separation between work and private life is now completely disappeared. You pass by in the evening, you pass by your home office, and you just straight away being sucked into that work area to check out on emails and do things. So yeah, that there is that the need to get back to that office. But there's one thing we should not forget. It's not only about that audio and video quality. Definitely, rooms should be video enabled. Before COVID, only 20% of the rooms maximum had some sort of video conferencing capabilities. That should boost up to about almost 100%, because we should get those hybrid workforce part of that meeting, like they're first-class citizens in that meeting. But there's another important aspect that should be on smart room management and smart room scheduling. Because can you imagine, I plan a meeting tomorrow with 20 people, I reserve a space in that facility, and tomorrow suddenly everybody is working from home. Or working from anywhere. That means, and real estate is expensive. So that meeting room is now there reserved, and all people who are in the office cannot use that meeting room because it shows red. It's been reserved, it's occupied. So having those sensors, as Gabi told you, is also becoming important. Not only counting people, but making sure if nobody shows up in that meeting room physically, please free that meeting room up for other people to make that reservation and use that real estate in because real estate is going to be a big thing where organizations are now looking for on how to do things and where should they spend their money on. Is it on, or the real estate, is it on the office, or is it on meeting and gathering areas? And I think the latter is what is happening more and more.
I mean, the AV industry has always been a service industry, if you like, but you feel as though we're moving much more to an IT-based discipline, don't you? And I just wonder whether the AV industry itself is currently geared up for that and needs to change its business and operational model to be able to cope. What do you think?
I believe that we should stop really pushing the boundaries between AV and IT. I believe that AV installer that doesn't understand IT will fail. IT manager doesn't understand AV will fail. You have to understand it's all intertwined, it's all together now. If my infrastructure to the cloud, to the Zoom servers are not as good as it should be, the audio quality, even if I use the best speakers, will not be good enough. So it's all together, and we have to stop this distinction. It's all going to be influencing each other and must be handled together.
I remember a few years ago, Steen, when we went to the ISE show, I noticed actually on the stand that Crestron was calling itself an IT company then. So in a way, you felt a change of mindset.
No, but it's correct. I mean, I think one of our slogans in 2004 was convergence of IT and AV. And honestly, the AV industry is a very innovative industry. We're easy to learn new things day in, day out. In the beginning of the millennial, when everything moved more into the network, systems were reached out, you could control systems with the network port, media players, which you could start control over the network. We all had to adopt it. Then the analog sunset came, going from composite S-video component video into HDMI and DisplayPort. We all had to learn it. This is not going to be any different now. Video's onto the network. Audio was already onto the network with Dante and AS67, and now video is getting onto that network as well. I mean, we are becoming IT experts, and IT and AV is a very close line. That's there, and Yeah, sorry, Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, and Clive, I was going to say, actually, it's not just IT, it's a digital transformation piece.
Yeah.
So it's not just true IT, it's not networking, what traditionally was IT as well. You know, I work for a digital transformation company. We look at actually the whole workflow, the how do you digitize documentation? How do you work through actually, you know, when you have mail come into the office now, not everybody's at the office anymore, you know, but do you then wait for them to come to the office? It's a whole transformation of the whole workplace now into a digital environment. It's not IT, it's not AV anymore, it's digital. That's the key thing.
Absolutely. I think that even Clive, the separation trying to be competing AV over IP or HD based, even now in this domain, people understand that it's a hybrid. You have to use both. You have to use the right technology to bring the right experience to your customers.
So, talking about digital transformation, AV over IP and everything else, as we bring our conversation to a close, sadly, this chip shortage we're hearing about, clearly going to be hitting us in 2021, 22. How serious, and I'll put this to you, Gabby, being the chip man here, how serious is it going to be for the AV industry?
So supply chain constraints is already here, and for the last, I would say, 6 to 7 months, we started to see this in a increasing manner. I believe that for the AV industry, maybe with the exception of the education market, where the installation window is very narrow to the summer break, they will manage. I believe that most of our customers are accustomed to have on-hand inventories. The industry is such that you keep on-the-shelf ready-made products, and I believe they will cope it very well. Again, with the exception of maybe a specific installation, maybe specifically to the summer break installation in the education market, they will manage that. I'm happy to say that luckily for Valens, we plan ahead properly. We have made a lot of actions to secure the supply, and we didn't even raise prices. So typically we see this type of constraint yielding longer lead time and increased prices. We should expect that. I would assume that this will continue with us into the second half of 2022. So probably another 8 to 9 months before this can be relaxed.
Steen, over to you, Crestron. I mean, certainly with just-in-time supply, this is where the car industry has fallen down. They when demand went down, they cut their orders of chips, didn't they? So now they're ramping up, and of course, they can't make chips quick enough. How's the AV industry in terms of your supplies, for example? How does that work out?
Well, I can only speak for ourselves, but it's like Gabby said, we've seen this coming many months ago, and we took proactive measures for that. We ramped up our productions. We purchased a lot more silicon months ago. But yeah, and it's not only look, an AV system very often exists out of different components, and so what we mainly advise to our dealers is please plan ahead and way in advance when these things need to fall. Let us know so we can plan also our manufacture and supply chain for that as well. On top, but again, I can only speak for Crestron, is we have so many products and so many ways to solve things. So for these very where there is a high priority, whatever, there's always ways to solve it and to replace it with other alternative technology.
Great food for thought, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Gabby, Steen, and Simon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Jessica.
And thank you for explaining how companies can restructure the corporate workspace to adapt to the digital environment. We're looking forward to hearing about the future developments of this transformation. Thank you for joining us for this discussion, and be sure to look for further HD-based content at ISE Digital 2021.